Welcome to another episode of Turf Talk Down Under. I'm Stasia, and with me is Ange.
Hi everyone. Hi Stas.
Hi. So it's been a busy week in the Greens party here in Australia.
It's been a busy week in Australia with all this gender stuff, really. But yeah, the Greens have imploded.
Yeah. So for those who haven't been following, the Victorian Greens elected a woman, Linda Bale or Gale? I think it's Gale. Linda Gale as their Victorian convener, and a whole bunch of Greens Party members cracked the sads.
Well, yeah, a man made a crazy rant with all the cliches of, killing trans people and things like that, because this lady, Linda, had written a letter to the Greens a few years ago with Nina Valens, who has appeared on this program, bringing to the attention of the Greens the conflict between trans rights and women's rights. And that's the heinous crime they committed. And eventually, as we know, Nina got booted out of the Greens. But this lady, Linda, with Nina, sent a very thoughtful and reasoned thing to the Greens. Yeah, just basically defending women's rights.
Yeah.
That's the crime.
Yeah. So city of Port Phillip, which is a very wealthy area here in Melbourne, has a councillor, Tim Baxter, on the council, who is obviously a Greens Party member, and he called
Deputy Mayor.
The Deputy Mayor, yeah, that's right. And he called into question the validity of the results because they hadn't gone through the normal democratic process, blah, blah, blah.
That they had.
Well, he was suggesting that one step was left out, or like some kind of public debate type thing where people could grill Linda on her transphobic views. I
read the rant. I read the rant when it went up, and it sounded like those rants that are all too familiar for us. Just the hyperbolic, inflammatory, ridiculous, false statistics. It was every cliche in the cult handbook, and it was in this rant from a supposed politician against other members of his party. And it's read in a way that was deranged, particularly for people who aren't familiar with the gender critical debate. And it painted Linda and Nina as these demonic transphobes, that they were walking around harassing trans people or something like that. It didn't explain what they had done that was so horrific, but it just went into all this detail about the harm that they'd caused.
Yeah, it was pretty out there. He used the term institutional power like 4 times in there, suggesting that gender critical women within the Greens have institutional power. Now, what a bunch of bullshit. Yeah, right. That's why Nina got booted. Oh, and also that's why Anna Kerr from Feminist Legal Clinic got expelled this week as well from the New South Wales Greens. Like, what are you talking about? Institutional power, you Fruit Loop.
He's a deputy mayor of one of the most, the wealthiest regions in the state. And he's talking about institutional power. He's a man who is, inciting harassment of these women, and people just blindly believe what he's saying.
I commented on his post, and I was accused of being a racist. Janet Rice, the senator, Green senator.
Oh, the one that was married to an elder gynophile.
Yeah. So for those who don't know Janet Rice's story, she was married to a man who came out as trans. She supported him through his journey, and then he got very sick and died. So you can kind of understand that she's a bit traumatized and has just, I don't like using this word, but she's a total simp for these pedophiles.
They watch this channel, don't you? You know that they were quoting things from this channel in that rant.
Really?
Hi. But yeah, you're right. You're right. And we're allowed to have that opinion.
So Janet Rice had a big rant, and
shared the post.
And then Larissa Waters, another Green senator,
very powerful one,
shared Janet Rice's rant, I think. I don't know, I didn't read it.
And shared Tim's hyperbolic post. It's like they're sharing it as a warning to other women. If you speak out, you will be flogged as a transphobe. It is a witch hunt. It was a witch hunt.
Absolutely.
Within the Greens. Yeah. And because they're emboldened because they won all these extra seats in Queensland. Because in Queensland, it's been ravaged by floods and fires for years. People in Queensland, their number one priority when they were voting was to do something about climate change and the environment, because they have paid for our years of negligence dearly with the floods and the fires. People have genuinely suffered. So the Greens polled higher in Queensland than they ever have before. And so the Greens are like, oh, everyone supports all of our policies. But to most people, trans is not the policy of the party. It's just like, oh yeah, they're being nice to trans people. Everyone wants to be nice. They're at the Greens for the environment primarily and for climate. Now, the Greens are drunk on this power from having all these extra seats and thinking that they've got there on the basis of this inner city Fitzroy kind of position on trans, that 90% of the population doesn't even experience or doesn't know a trans person. And when they think of one, they think of the nice, fully transitioned transsexuals and not the autogynephiles that we have to deal with in, refuges and shelters and in public toilets and things like that. And the Greens have got into power and then gone, wow, with this trans agenda above all the things that people voted on, like the environment and climate and logging and all of those really important environmental things, energy prices, and all these other things that the Greens for decades have represented, that they no longer represent. They represent social justice, and people weren't aware. And I think the people who voted on the basis of climate in Queensland are going to be incredibly confused about what's happening in the Greens, and they're going to be immensely disappointed because the Greens are an inner city suburban social justice party. They support Dan Andrews' Labor and all their logging policies and bollocks like this.
Social justice party, spot on.
Yeah, and Bob Brown, no wonder he has nothing to do with them. Yeah, he's retired. But for my God's sake, that's the party he created, and they've bastardized it. They've turned it into a caricature of what it's meant to be. And they've sold out to corporate interests, because I bet you all the money in the world that they are signed up to some sort of thing where they're getting big pharma donors, because it does not make sense for them to betray 51% of the population for this supposed ever-growing tiny minority of people who identify as transgender. It does not make any political sense, and it makes zero common sense, and it's an insult to people who voted on the environment that they are supporting big pharmaceutical companies, they are supporting transing children, younger and younger children, they're supporting medicalizing children and people who are vulnerable with mental health issues. It is the exact opposite of what the Greens is supposed to be about. And that's my rant. I'm going to have to sleep. No, yeah, but that's my rant for the day. I'm infuriated. I really am. I'm a lefty. I'm a vegan, for God's sake. Don't judge. I'm an environmentalist in my daily life. I used to tie myself to trees. I'm the person that should be voting for the Greens, and they are an embarrassment and a caricature of what they used to be. So,
okay. Well, I've got a lot more to say on it, but our guest, because we are running late. We're running late when we started, so
yeah, it's my fault. Sorry.
We have the lovely Sall Grover joining us today. She's received some pretty shit news this week.
There she is. Hi, Sall.
How are you going?
Oh, I'm so tired.
You've got an excuse.
It's been the craziest week. Just crazy, because it was just like completely coincidentally that Katie Montgomery went after Giggle yesterday, telling their 5,000 Twitter followers to go after it. And so when we're having like a big attack like that, you know, you just, I mean, Giggle's built to handle it, but you've just got to monitor it even more. And
so you had a whole bunch of trans-identifying people swamping your site trying to get in.
I would never, ever assume someone's gender identity. We had a whole group of men, male people. Yeah. I don't know how they identify. We had male people coming after us, lots of beards. It's just, it would started at like 2 a.m. yesterday morning. And luckily at the moment, I wake up at like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning every morning anyway. And so it was just because of that, like, I mean, Giggle's monitored by human eyes all the time, but it was just, I saw someone had sent to me, I've been seeing Katie Montgomery has done this. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to go and check. And I just saw what was happening. And I was like, okay, whenever it's really under attack, I like take over and or join in and monitor it all. And yeah, so I was awake for like almost 24 hours.
Wow. Did you get in a nap before we started here?
No, I actually haven't. That was my plan. I haven't, because then today we've just been dealing with, you know, we're just now also, we've got the lawsuit. So it's just having to do normal work stuff. I mean, running a startup, establishing a startup is so hard. It takes so much time. And now it's all this other stuff on top of it as well.
And for those that don't know, Sall's really tired because she's just about to have a baby.
20 days. Yes, I'm having Braxton Hicks actually this afternoon. It's like, oh, yeah, they're getting more and more intense. Like sometimes they'll take my breath away. I'm like, oh, I'll be like, oh my God, that's so painful. And then I remember this is not even like 1,000th of how painful this is going to be.
I didn't get those. I just got the kicks in the lungs that knocked me to the ground. I didn't get the Braxton Hicks. Just the bottom of the lung.
Sometimes I just look down and I'm just like, how are you supposed to get out of that? Like, this seems so impossible. I just don't understand it. Like, I was complaining to my mum yesterday. I was like, this is inhumane. I can't even believe they make anyone do this. But yeah, here we are. So
and your mum's rolling her eyes going, oh yeah.
Not completely, because I was born at 30 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so my mum, like, then she had my brother, but he was born early as well. But yeah, she just didn't, especially with me. I mean, it was a traumatic birth in its own way, but she never got like huge and uncomfortable like this. So I'm just like waddling around everywhere and just, just crazy.
See, all this talk about, you know, having babies and mumsy stuff is quite relevant, because while you're meant to be enjoying this, you know, miraculous and kind of crazy time right up to, you know, the end of your pregnancy and about to have a baby, you're dealing with not only an assault on your business, as people hear that it is a transphobic business that's becoming, you know, increasingly under attack, but you also now have to deal with a lawsuit.
Federal court, which I thought we dodged the bullet. I honestly thought we had, because we, you know, you have, after a human rights complaint is like dismissed by the Australian Human Rights, you've got 60 days to take it further to federal court. And it was actually the 61st day, because the 60th day fell on a Sunday. And even then I waited until like 5 p.m. at the end of the business day on the Monday to like have that sigh of relief of like, okay. But unbeknownst to me, they'd filed at 2:30 in the afternoon, you know, so 2.5 hours to go. And we got notified this Monday, so a full 7 days more from that. And so now we've got 24 days left to respond to it, which obviously we're going to, like, all of that work starts next week. With
Are you crowdfunding for it, Sall? Can people support?
Yes. So that's been part of what I've been like focusing on today. And I've got meetings all weekend actually with people of the best way to do it, because, you know, just going off what other women have had to go through when crowdfunding these sorts of things, I don't want to put us in a position where a day, like, you know, we're fully funded, but a day before it's about to be up, we're kicked off or whatever. And then also just like for Giggle as a startup thing, we attempted to do a Kickstarter thing, but we got kicked off of Kickstarter. So I've experienced it before.
Yeah.
So we've just got to work out the best way to do it, to be honest.
I think in the UK they have some dedicated crowd justice legal fund thing.
Yeah.
And we don't have that here in Australia, not yet anyway.
No, and the GoFundMe lady's a trans activist, like a militant trans activist. So
is this Sally Rugg?
Yeah. I've had a few chats with her.
She doesn't like me.
Oh, she thought I was very polite for a TERF. We've had a few chats. Yeah.
We've had a few interactions, which she's made it very clear that she's not a fan of mine. So, and like, and like, to be fair, like I'm sort of someone, like I do sort of try to avoid conflict as much as I can. So I would never sort of put myself in a position where I was like in her firing line. And I'm like, I'll be respectful. I'll just stay out of your way. You stay out of mine. And, we live happy lives. It's all cool. But yeah, so it's just, that's the thing. Like there's so much to sort of do and to think of. And yes, at the moment, I'm a bit like, I was talking to my best friend who lives in the States, and I was talking to her this morning about it. She was asking how I was, and I was like, I'm just really angry at the moment. I'm really angry. I'm angry that women have to deal with this in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm angry that I have to actually it's really hard to focus on the baby part of my life right now.
Yeah.
And I'm angry that there's been this interruption of just at any possible time in my life, because the human rights complaint came when I was 15 weeks pregnant. It was actually crazy. I was actually in isolation with COVID at the time, and it was this whole thing. I was like, I can't even be around humans, and I'm getting a human rights complaint. Like, ha ha ha. And it had been like, it was only like 6 or 7 days after I'd even put on Twitter that I was pregnant, and so it was just, bam, bam. And so it's just the whole time. This has been a distraction, but now it's like the ultimate one. But one guy I was talking to today that sort of more to say like at future dates about it, like a very powerful, awesome ally to have in the situation. He was saying, he's like, yeah, buckle up, like this could be the next 3 years of your life. And I was like, I know, I've had to get my head around that, but it's not just right now. It probably, like, I'm having a girl, so it's like the first like few years of my daughter's life. But at the same time, if it means that her female spaces are protected for the rest of her life, it's worth it.
Yeah. I've been in court for 5.5 years with a vexatious troll, and it's ongoing. And so, yeah, I get it. But with human rights complaints, they're usually fairly cut and dry.
Well, I think we should back up a bit and tell us what the human rights complaint actually is, Sal. I think most of our viewers probably know what's going on, but some won't. So, yeah, like this.
Okay. So basically, so put it all into context. So I run Giggle, which is a social networking app for females. I thought that was pretty clear. In fact, when we first started it, I never used the word females, and I had some women, really question me, like, what do you mean by women? And I had no idea about any of this. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, women? And I was like, I'm not using the word female. It's so clinical. Like, you know what we are when you just say women. This is so ridiculous. But no, then we completely changed our language to saying female to be as clear as possible. And so I already felt like we were giving up a word there. And and there's all of that. And we'd only been, just to give the full context of everything, we'd only been on the App Store and Google Play for a few weeks. A handful of women like that we knew on the planet knew about Giggle because we were just doing bug testing and everything. And the trans activists of Twitter and Reddit found it and just like swarmed it. And we didn't have all the security settings in place yet. Like, we wasn't ready. And so we just had to like get everything in place as quickly as possible and launch. Like it was out there. Like we just had to go with it, and we've just had to go with it ever since, whether we were ready to or not. And ever since then, we've been called transphobic and racist is the other one, and I'm a bigot and a TERF and all of this sort of stuff. And so I had to get educated really, really quickly. And at this particular time, it was the 7th of February, 2020, and I didn't know any of this sort of stuff. And as the good little liberal girl that I actually am, I was very much like, of course, like, you know, like live and let live, and like, can trans women come on? Yeah, of course. Like, every trans woman I've ever met's been really nice, because I was thinking of these, I've talked to Angie about it, like these sort of
effeminate gay men.
Yeah, well, just very non-threatening, always had a really great sense of humor about themselves, like they knew who they were, and just like very nice, like it was just grateful of like being sort of included in something. I don't know if grateful is the right word, but just that thing of like, oh, like, you know, like just, well, thanks for not, you know, making a big deal about it or something, or just being like, being social with me, you know, just treating me like a person, if nothing else. So I was just not judging me. So I was just very much like that. I had no idea what was going on. And I think it's a really important part of like the whole like the context of the whole story, because I do understand what it's like to sort of be an ally and start off that way and have not really thought about it, because I just didn't, because never in my wildest nightmare did I think that men were actually saying they were women. It's crazy. Yep. No one has that as like a instinctual thought. You really have to be told it. And so yeah, I got educated really, really quickly, and then started speaking out as soon as, I think it was about 6 months. I was like, felt confident enough to start really speaking out. And I started speaking out to correct, as a way to sort of stop the lies about Giggle, because it was just that, you know, they were just saying the most horrible things about it.
What were they saying? What was some of the worst, you know?
I would say the worst accusation of all is the racism accusation.
Yeah.
Because one, it's just completely untrue, but two, I feel that it is using women of different races against each other, or using them as pawns in this game.
Yes.
It's kind of a form of racism in itself, right?
100%. Like there's just, and when people will say like Giggle's racist, I'm just like, one, it's just not. I wouldn't allow anything like that it to be. I wouldn't, there's no racism allowed on the app. Like, you know, if you're communicating, we would fix that if there was any sort of attack like that. And it's just, I find racism horrible, abhorrent. So that's the one that bothers me the most, because the transphobic accusations at this point, one, transphobia has lost all of its meaning to me, and two, trans-identified females are welcome on the app. So I'm like, who's being transphobic here? Because you're not even thinking of them. Like, we do. So to call us trans exclusionary, or to say that we discriminate on the basis of gender identity, is just completely incorrect. We just don't allow males. It's as simple as that. So yeah, so I said speaking out, blah, blah, blah. And then so it's been 2 years, and, you know, we had all of these plans of how Giggle was going to launch and what we were going to do, and the support that we were going to have, and that obviously all went away when I started speaking out. And we have been banned from every type of advertising we've ever tried. We can't raise capital because every way we've tried in Australia, different companies, they won't work with us. One equity crowdfunding company called Our Trans Problem an open wound. What are you talking about? Like, I was just like,
I can think of another sort of open wound.
oh my God. And so yeah, it has dictated our lives essentially for the last 2.5 years. And so this now has sort of, is it all coming to a head, really? So in January of this year, we got a human rights complaint, an Australian human rights complaint against Giggle and me from a trans-identified male, claiming gender identity discrimination because they could not use the app. Now, a bit of context is that, well, I mean, I could say the name, Roxanne Tickle, it's public knowledge, had
Tickle and Giggle.
Tickle v Giggle. It's just It sounds like a puppet show. Like,
Yeah.
it's as ridiculous. The absurdity of the name matches the absurdity of the situation.
Yes.
Like, it really does sort of rise to the occasion. So Roxanne had downloaded and onboarded the app in September 2021. Now, our gatekeeping is the verification selfie that every user has. If you don't want to take it and you're like, I don't like that, I'm not going to use the app. Cool. If you want access to the app, you have to take the selfie. It's just as simple as that, because men and women are different. This shouldn't be a controversial thing to say. We can all tell with our own eyes if someone is male or female. It just is. Anyway, but we have it set to 94% accuracy, and it works exactly how you would expect something set to 94% accuracy would work. And this is in part why it's backed up by human eyes, because I would never trust just technology in something like this. You do need that human element. And yeah, I would rather there be some males get on, for example, and we deal with that, than females not, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's why we have it. We did all the testing, blah, blah, blah. And this is the how we have it, the settings that we have all work. Now, so Roxy was one of the 6% that got on. And then, so whether it was that day, the next day, however long it was, I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head. I was, going through and checking everything and saw a picture of a male. And I went, oh, it's a male. And I removed, as I do. And I know it was me. I don't remember doing it because I've done it however many times to other people, but I know that it would have been me. I know at that particular, like in September last year, it would have been me. And then, so Roxanne then emailed Giggle, I believe. I think there was maybe a response back and then nothing else, which is pretty normal for us. We don't respond to every email that we get. It would be a full-time job too. And then in October, I think it was, I got a text saying, this is Roxy Tickle. I want to talk to you about Giggle. And I was just immediately like, what? Like, no other potential Giggle user has ever texted my phone. I don't know how they got my number.
What a stalker.
Yeah, I don't know how it happened. And I immediately was quite freaked out, like.
I would be.
Yeah, well, part of the reason we created Giggle was because of my experiences with sexual assault and things like that in my previous career in Hollywood. And so I was very, I'm still I still have high alert stuff with things like that. And my dad comes to a lot of meetings with me because I don't like to go alone and all that kind of stuff. And so I was just very oh, and I got the message. And then I don't know, maybe twice, Roxanne attempted to call my phone and I didn't answer. And I called my dad and I said, what do I do here? Because I said, I'm freaked out by it. And because, your mind immediately goes to what's the next thing? Are you going to turn up at my house? But you just do. That's because I have had males just turn up where I am. So you just go oh, hang on, what's going on here? And so my dad's words to me goes, block the number, don't tell your mother. Because knowing that my mom would just get paranoid and scared and blah, blah, blah. She's already been scared about my safety with all of this stuff. Anyway, so I did that. And then I thought nothing else of it until we got the human rights complaint. And I was like, damn it, now I have to tell my mom. And so the human rights complaint was, alleging gender identity discrimination. Now, I maintain still to this day, I don't know Roxanne Tickle's gender identity. Roxanne Tickle claims to be legally and morally a female. I don't know what that means. I can't know. I am a woman and I don't know what it feels like to be a woman. So I don't even know how to interpret what someone is saying there. It is so subjective, and I don't have any problem with people having subjective experiences. That's not my issue whatsoever. And if you want to call yourself a woman, look, we all have things we've got to tell ourselves to get out of bed in the morning and live our best life. It's really none of my business. And so just the idea, that I could know someone's gender identity to discriminate against them, I was just like, no. And because, as I said, we welcome trans identified females onto Giggle. In Giggle support, we have a category called gender identity for females around the world who are questioning, or like, it's actually got a lot of the females who are in that category are from countries where gender nonconformity is not allowed at all. So what you might actually call an actual phobic society. And so they're supporting each other there, and it's really lovely. So to say that in any way that there's gender identity discrimination it's just wrong.
And sorry.
It's just males aren't included in our demographic of who can be on the app. It's just as simple as that.
Yeah. And they all say, you can't tell a person's gender identity by looking at them, right?
And there was when I had to go back, after we got the complaint, and I went back to see of this particular user, oh, okay, hang on, who is this? Because I still didn't know. I couldn't put it all together of who it was. And then I was like, okay, so it's this person. And I had a look, and Roxy had made profiles. There's no mention of being a trans woman, or even nothing. There's no mention of anything of gender identity, nothing that you could go, oh, well, you saw that I had a gender identity and discriminated against it. There was nothing.
Although the name's a giveaway, Roxy Tickle.
There's no tickle, because you don't have to use last names. You don't have to use your real name. I can't even off the top of my head remember if they did use that, if Roxy used Roxy on the app. You don't have to use your last name or anything like that. And so I was just like, I haven't discriminated against gender identity. And in the human rights complaint, it was just such an insane document to me, because I was being accused of gender identity discrimination, and I was being told that to rectify the situation, we would have to allow Roxy on all men who identify as women, and moderate how women talk about these issues on the app. So censor all women, basically. And also that me and Giggle as a company would have to be submit to gender and education, which I call re-education, because it's the only thing it could be, because I am educated on gender and sex. So I just don't agree with theirs. And so because of that, I declined the offer of conciliation, because I was like, well, we're not going to come to a resolution here, because I'm never going to agree to those things. And so we did that, knowing that federal court could be the next option. The other things in the human rights complaint, Roxanne listed things like that they were offended by my tweets. And I didn't even know this, but I'd actually blocked them on Twitter, not knowing who they were in January 2021. It's just a random account to me. Now that I'm being made aware of it, I didn't know anything about it. But so if they're still reading my tweets, they're seeking them out in some way. And then also that they're increasingly offended by my media appearances. Again, I've never sent a media appearance to be made them watch it or anything. They're watching this on their own accord. And compared Giggle to the Ku Klux Klan in a human rights document. And it was one of those moments, I'm like, well, then why do you want to be part of it? If you think it's the Ku Klux Klan, why would you even want to be associated with it?
Because you said no.
Yeah, because it's a power thing.
You said no, and they don't take no for an answer. And so they persist and they persist and persist. And if you hadn't have blocked that call, they might have turned up at your door, because you've said no on multiple occasions, and that's still not enough. And now the only way to punish you for saying no is to take you to the Human Rights Tribunal when you're pregnant.
So when I said no to conciliation, it was that moment of because you always want to try and see if you could find a resolution. And I was like, oh God, could we before going any further with it? And I was like, there's just none. And then in some media interviews, Roxy has said that all they wanted was to sit across the table from me and ask, why do you not think I'm a woman? And I'm like,
Because you're a man, dickhead. Fuck's sake.
I'm like, if that's really all you wanted to do, I think that that's what you would have communicated to me at some point. I don't think you would have taken going to a human rights, the Human Rights Commission at all to try and instigate something like that.
I just think meeting you in person is a red flag. Like, why do they have to meet you in person to get that across? Red flags everywhere.
I also think that I still have the right to decline that. Even if that's what all you want to do, I don't want to do that. Yep. So no, my answer is still no. I don't want to sit across from anybody and say why I don't think that they're a woman.
And that's potentially hurtful according to them. Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to hurt their feelings knowing that that's what they're wanting you to do? It doesn't make any sense.
That's part of it, because as I said, look, how someone personally lives their life is none of my business. I've had to tell myself stuff to get out of bed in the morning and live my best life and my best self that probably other people would be like, you're insane. I completely disagree with you. But my only issue is when you're trying to force me to believe it.
Yes.
And so it should be irrelevant to Roxanne of whether or not I think they're a woman.
You know what, can I just say, I mean, from what I've seen of him on Insight and on just the news, there was a news story where they talked about the case against you. Mm-hmm. And, you know,
he was on 7:30 report about sport. He's been on that many, he courts the media. He courts it. He likes the attention.
And the way that he goes about it, in my opinion, he's a covert narcissist. Everything is poor me, I'm a victim, I've been victimized. Like when he was talking about not being allowed on Giggle in that news report, and he said something like, oh, I don't understand, it just makes me feel sad. Like, how it is so manipulative. He's a really dangerous individual, I think.
There's an article of it's just a local Lismore article that I was sent the other day from 2020, and Roxanne is quoted in it saying that when they were a male, so keep that in mind, that reference that they have made, that when I was male, I was very uncomfortable going into the male bathroom. And then when I started transitioning to female, suddenly I was comfortable. And my thing with that is, well, you've established that you can know the feeling of being uncomfortable in a space. Why aren't you taking into consideration other people's being comfortable in that space?
So abusive, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just because it's not just about you. It's about everyone in society. And the best way that we've made it work in the bathroom situation and change rooms and all of that is to just have it segregated by sex. It's the best way. We don't do it by height or astrology or gender identity. We do it by sex. It's the easiest and the most successful.
It's not the cheapest though, according to Daniel Andrews. That's why he only has unisex toilets now. It's not the cheapest.
I can't stand it.
I mean, women's safety and comfort's irrelevant.
But you know what? With that as well, the amount of guys in Victoria that I've spoken to who are so uncomfortable, they don't want to be standing at a urinal with their dick out, and a mother and her 5-year-old daughter walks behind him, because every decent man, every cell in his body says, don't have my dick out, while women I don't know and children are around me.
They said even you have a dump and there's a woman outside, you're mortified. And I'm like, well, thank you, because we're even more mortified. So
we're on a date, like, oh God, craziness.
A lot of countries of people watching this, they still have segregated toilets, and they're horrified by mixed sex hospital wards, which all public hospital wards are here in Australia, even mental health wards, and there's some bad shit happening in them. Everything is now mixed sexed here, and people that live overseas are mortified. But we're living with the things that they're bringing in overseas, because it's all about economic rationalism and not about protecting women and keeping us safe.
I mean, it's worse for you down in Victoria. See, I'm in Queensland and it hasn't happened as much here yet.
Yeah.
But it's on its way. I mean, I tried to have a meeting with the Queensland Attorney General, and she won't meet with me, even though she apparently is be meeting with all stakeholders in self-ID. And I was like, well, I'm a stakeholder in this, being not just a woman, but also a Queensland resident who owns a Queensland-based startup.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think they could refuse, to be honest, unless they had a legitimate like safety.
I posted her response. I posted a response to Twitter. It was like over a page long, her response, and it was just blah blah blah. We don't want to discriminate against gender diverse people, you know, blah blah blah. And I was like,
yeah,
you know, it's just a thing of like, well, this might actually be like a readable, intelligent letter if you actually talk to other stakeholders in this, that you just blatantly haven't. And so your choice to put it in writing. And
what about women that, you know, vulnerable women, you know, like yourself, people, you know, women who have been victims of male violence, who can't feel safe around men. It's not that they don't want to, but can't feel safe. Exactly. Or women from diverse cultural backgrounds, you know, nobody gives a shit about them.
I know, like in terms of all this inclusion, the amount of people that are being excluded, it's not inclusion, it's literally a male supremacy movement. It's the only group that this actually benefits. It's just mind-blowing. And so like even now, it's like this week, I've got it here. This is the federal court filing, and it's just like, I mean, I've read some crazy things in my time. It's the craziest thing. I'm being told I'm in breach of something because I say that trans women are male. And I'm like,
it's reality.
This is a really important test case, right?
Yeah. Like, I'm like, the only prerequisite to be a trans woman is that you're male. That is it. There's no, I can't be a trans woman. It's just madness to say that I've been saying a week. I'm like, am I expected to lie under oath?
No.
What?
You are expected to, but no, you shouldn't.
I would never. I would never.
Me either.
I would never. That's my whole thing with this is what it comes down to for me. Like, obviously, we're coming at this from women's rights and female spaces, but this sort of stuff actually affects everyone. And this is what I think that it is our job as women and feminists who are in this and who we are so educated on these issues. We've been following what's happening in every other country in the world. It is our job to make the Australian public aware that it affects everyone. Because with something like, with this particular case, what it comes down to is, do we have the right, or can the law force us to deny what we see with our own eyes? Yeah. I saw a male and I acted accordingly.
You didn't just see him, you felt that he was a male. You viscerally feel it. Because when I look at that person, my visceral response to him on every level is that my skin crawls, that because he is a male and he is a male pretending to be someone who he isn't. And it makes me uncomfortable.
And I know this person is male. This person themselves have said they are male. They've acknowledged that reality. And so we have to be able to, but if we can't acknowledge that, without fear of punishment, legal punishment, then we don't live in a free society.
Yeah.
This affects everyone. It affects Roxanne Tickle. Roxanne Tickle has the right to acknowledge what they see with their own eyes and voice it.
And learn boundaries. Roxanne and other people like Roxanne, who by their own admission suffer from an acute mental illness, which is gender dysphoria, they deserve to learn boundaries. We don't indulge people with mental illnesses because it causes them harm. We need them to learn respectful boundaries. And this process should teach that. But we've seen in other areas that this gender debate, it doesn't. And it's very frustrating. I don't actually trust the Australian media to report honestly on your case. I'm afraid they are going to frame you in a particular way that makes this person look like a victim. They're going to, put like a smoke, like the filters they use on the soap operas over Roxanne's entire personality and appearance and everything else. And then put a witchy hat on you and, and a devil's fork or something like that, and completely turn reality upside down the same way the whole gender thing is turned upside down.
I'm completely prepared to be painted as the evil witch in all of this. The thing is, there is nothing that anyone can say that hasn't already been said on Twitter.
Yeah.
What has happened in the last 2.5 years is because it's had to rule my work life and then personal life, I have educated myself to like an insane degree. So I know too much about this ideology. I'm like so far into it, like down the rabbit hole of it.
This is why they're so determined not for you to not have a public profile.
Yes,
because you're strong. They have made you strong. They have made you educated.
Yes,
and you can't have that public profile because you're right.
That's the thing, is that when they say, get educated, and then we go, okay, and off we go, and we got educated and turned around and went, oh, the feminists are really right. Even, it's just crazy. It's crazy.
It is.
TERFs are right about everything. So what do you have to fly down to Canberra for this? What
federal courts
in
Sydney. So we have to respond the day before I'm due to give birth. So obviously I don't have to be there for that. Whether we're going to ask for an extension or something, I don't know any of those details yet.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, when it goes to court, I'll have to be there. With baby, I don't know.
Yeah, well, we were talking about that. We said, I wonder if Sall will take her baby, because if she's feeding, she's going to have to feed her baby in court. They can't say no.
Yeah, my little infant human female.
Little wrap out.
Yeah. So I mean, but it depends. I mean, this could take 6 months. It could take a year.
And
we don't know.
If you lose at the federal court, what's the next step after that?
We'd appeal. And then there's the High Court. So this is what I'll say. Okay. So from my understanding, I'm in no way a legal expert or anything. Blah, blah, blah. I just talk to people who know a lot, and then I try and compute it in my non-legal brain. But so under the Sex Discrimination Act of 1984, female spaces are completely protected. There's no problem. In 2013, a gender identity clause was put in there. And that was under Julia Gillard's government. And so sometimes there's like criticism of that. I'm prepared to give the benefit of the doubt that Julia Gillard had absolutely no idea of what this could all possibly mean, because in 2013, who would have? But I think the people who pushed it through knew. Incidentally, apparently it was the Australian Human Rights Commission who helped lobby for it. But there's no conflict of interest there. Anyway, so this particular clause, having a gender identity clause in a sex discrimination act, muddles it, because which one wins? Which one do you listen to?
Exactly.
Because they're incompatible. So it's never been tested under scrutiny. No one's challenged this yet. Now, so we're going to. Now, it has huge ramifications in lots of different ways, in the sense that if there's no such thing as the Sex Discrimination Act anymore, that affects law, like other laws that are underneath it, within it, like maternity leave and equal pay and like breastfeeding laws in public or workplace or things like that. Like there's lots of different things within the Sex Discrimination Act that have absolutely nothing to do with gender identity. But if you say that gender identity is the most important and trumps sex, well, then sex is meaningless.
And so it's homosexuality too, and that's protected. Well, that's the other thing.
That's the other thing. And so, yeah, I mean, so it is a really interesting legal case. Again, as I said, to me, what it comes down to is whether we're allowed to acknowledge reality.
Exactly.
And sex is reality. So that to me is my, like 100% my focus on it, because I want men, women, and children all to be able to acknowledge reality. This is not just a feminist issue by any stretch of the imagination. It's just that the other thing I think the public's going to have to get used to is, whether they like it or not, it's going to be feminists bringing all of these issues to their attention because they affected women first. All these new laws or rules affected women first. And so, yeah.
But they're expecting, there's all these stereotypes in society about what a feminist is, but you're a feminist. You're not the feminist they're expecting. They're not expecting you to do this. So this is good for them.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting, isn't it? Like what they expect, like a feminist to be and what a feminist is in reality. And it's been really interesting. One of the things I would never have expected, but sort of a lot of them actually call themselves libertarian, but let's say like we would call them conservative men who sort of come to your aid before anyone else. And even actually when I was talking to Kath Deeds, she said it's when everything the last few months was happening to her, it was the support from conservative men that was so she said they were so just so supportive. Like there was just nothing they wouldn't do, and they just genuinely cared. And no name calling or anything like that, and listened to what she had to say and actually processed it and went, oh, okay, now I understand what you're actually saying. And they might be coming from it from a completely different perspective. Not everyone has to care about women's rights. Evidently, most people don't. But, just your allies aren't who you expect them to be, basically. And I'm very much like, I'm not going to let that turn me off certain things. Like I'm not a Puritan about things. Like, as I said, I'm a lefty liberal, always have been. I fought with my dad my entire adult life because he's always been a little hippie. And he used to always say to me, he'd always be like, the left eats its own. I'd be like, oh, you old man. It does. And then it ate me. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. But I still say, like, I mean, my politics is still like the left. I'm anti-gun, I'm pro-choice, I'm for basic universal income. I think there should be like a maximum income, like stop. I don't think someone should be able to be worth $20 billion on their own. I'm against the death penalty. I'm pro-gay marriage. I'm pro men wearing women's clothing. I don't think that anyone should dictate how anyone dresses. I don't care about any of this stuff. I just care also about freedom of expression, freedom of association, and freedom of speech.
Here. Well, yeah. Well, look, we're going to have to wrap it up, but thanks so much for coming on and giving us a huge update.
Yeah, and let us know when you get your crowdfunder up, because if lots of people donate $5, you're going to have a lot of money.
Yeah, basically. And I mean, because like it's going to be so much work. That's the thing. And so it's just, and we just want to make sure that you take that stress out of it, like the financial part of it out of it. And it's like, okay, we can move forward with this.
Yeah, the complainant gets free legal aid and you don't. So that's the issue. And I don't think any woman, when it's something this serious, should have to cover the burden of that personally. I don't think anyone should.
And it's the thing of like when, like all year when we've been, sort of going like, oh, is it going to be us that has to take this to, it's going to be the one that challenges this. We're a startup, you don't have like just buckets of money in the bank as a startup for federal court cases. But, it was never going to be, who else is it going to be? Because say you have like girls' schools or things like that, they get through this with like religious exemptions and stuff. So they were never going to be in a position to have to challenge the law. It was always going to have to be a standalone secular sort of company.
Although they're going after that. They're going after schools' religious exemptions. After all of those things as well.
Just incidentally, actually, my cousin told me this yesterday. She's a teacher at a Catholic school, and so is her husband, who's at a different one, and he has 8 trans identifying students now, and their Catholic school, they're just about to admit their first non-binary student. And I was just like this is a social contagion. Like
Yeah.
Totally not a different issue, I know, but it was just like, oh God, it's really spreading. It's really happening here.
Sad.
It's out of control. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again, Sal.
Thank you.
Good luck. Wait.
Good luck with your baby. I'm so excited.
Oh my God, I'm so nervous.
Yeah.
Oh, but thank you. Okay, I'll talk to you both later.
Okay.
Cool. See ya.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, wow.
It makes me so fucking angry.
I know. I'm livid. I was excited to see Sal, though. I'm a bit excited about her baby.
Yeah.
Now that I'm not having them anymore, I've got to get excited about other people having them. Now can we get stuck back into the greens?
Well, yeah, let's do that, because Rohan Leppert, viewers may remember.
Bit of a legend, this guy, Rohan. He's put his neck out when everyone else is too afraid.
He's the Melbourne City Councillor who's also a Greens Party member. He's written a piece that's been put up on Substack. I'll link it in the comments.
It's
really dissected the whole thing that's gone down in the Greens this week. And he used the excellent term, this is straight out of the Trump playbook, to dispute the results of a democratic process. And it was just spot on. So well done, Rohan, if you're watching. Here's the other thing that's, so you were talking previously before Sal came on about, well, look, what happened was a couple of years ago, some trans members of the party came out with this trans exclusionary rhetoric discussion paper. And I don't know if you looked through it, but it had this whole list of things that were either wrong, literally, this is what it said, wrong or oppressive. I'm going to read out a few of those things. There are two sexes. Wrong, oppressive.
They said that to the ABC too, and same-sex attraction.
Trans women are biologically male. The science is not conclusive. Shutting down debate is censorship. That's considered wrong and oppressive.
Oh.
It's just insane. And then look, the list just goes on and on. I don't want anything to do with penises. That is wrong and oppressive. All you lesbians watching.
Hey, me.
This is just insane. But where was it? Trans women don't get periods. Wrong.
That's aggressive. We've already talked about the tampon tea, so.
So that
I'm laughing because I'm angry.
Yeah.
Because it's so ridiculous.
Yeah. That document is, I believe, what Nina Valens and Linda Gale responded to. This is the level of insanity going on in the Greens at the moment.
And both that document and the rant by Tim, the deputy mayor, contained the same sort of bullshit. And that's why I'm laughing, because you're reading it and you're thinking no one would, this sounds like the rants of a lunatic. This is completely not based in objective reality. It is offensive to women. It's offensive to culturally diverse people. It's offensive to Indigenous people. It's offensive. And you can go down and as you're reading it, you're thinking, what a load of trash. You wouldn't wipe your butt with it. And yet this has caused so much division, and it's been, grabbed on by all of the major players in the Greens as like a what do you call it? Not a Bible, the cult manual, and it is, they're treating it like it's some, precious document, and it's shit.
Just completely off the planet crazy.
It is completely off the planet.
Preamble to that document was pretty out there. many otherwise progressive transphobes will insist on inherent differences between transgender and cisgender people of the same gender. Yeah, we're gonna insist on them because that's fucking reality, you psychos. Oh my God. It just,
It's scary. It's actually scary.
I really hope that, you know, this brings all the gender critical Greens Party members out of the woodwork, emboldens them to speak up and say what they really think. And I just think it would be just this beautiful serendipity if it's the Greens Party that brings down this trans house of cards here in Australia. It'd just be so funny.
The thing is, it's the time where people have to speak up is gone. You know, if Linda and Rohan and Nina can step up, they deserve to have all the other gender critical Greens, or even slightly questioning Greens, stand behind them and say, no, these people have a point. Debate is welcome.
Yeah.
You know, these, trans rights and women's rights can't exist together. You know, let's discuss this. That's not irrational at all. And it's time for everyone else in the Greens to step up and support these people who have put their neck out, you know, and if they don't, they're going to be silenced for the next God knows how long. Same thing's happening in the Animal Justice Party.
Oh, yeah.
Two social justice movement political parties.
Yeah, another guy got expelled for gender critical views. I was going to read that out, but I don't think we'll have time.
The list is getting longer and longer of people that are getting expelled for gender critical views from political parties, from the public service, from workplaces. Everyone's speaking in hushed tones. The time to stand up is now.
We had a man comment on last week's or the weeks before this video of ours, saying that he got fired from some software company, Ubisoft or something. I think it was.
Poor thing. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, I told, if you're listening again this week, get in touch. Our email address is in the description. Let's have a chat.
Did you see that text I got? You're old and ugly and I hope you lose your job.
Oh, mate.
See, this is it. They go, oh, you know, we'll make them lose their job. You know, it's like, yeah, good on you. It's not going to happen.
Childish. It's so fucking childish.
But it's evil as well. You know, that's the first thing they think of. They can't get at you in any other way because you have, you know, facts, reality, you know, brain on your side. So they think, okay, the one thing that we can do is we can turn everyone around them against them, particularly the person they depend on most, apart from their family, which is their employer. Now I can't be sacked. So good, you know, good on you. I can be cancelled from here or whatever. Do your best.
But we've got
have a life.
We've got a backup account on Odyssey.
Yep. And we're going to have a website soon. So even if I get the boot from Twitter and here, you won't be able to get our website. Yeah. So
I got called a racist a second time on Janet Rice's post. So I commented there as well, congratulating Linda Bale and fucking Pauline Pants Down, who has just become irrelevant now that Pauline Hanson is no longer in government.
He's calling you a racist, and he's based his entire career on looking like a racist.
He called me a white supremacist and compared me to Vladimir Putin. It's like, oh my God, if that's your go-to insult, which is what happened on the Tim Baxter post as well, then, you know, there's just no point in engaging with you fucking idiots, right?
I was laughing this morning. So Putin's released a list of Australians that are banned from Russia. Right? He's just got them off Google or whatever. It's like Gina Reinhardt and, you know, the Prime Minister and Julie Gillard and whoever, you know, there's a whole bunch of celebrities and people that Putin's banned from Russia. It's sanctions against Australians, right? And I thought, shit, that's one list that I'm not on. And then I thought about how they all reckon we're in cahoots with Putin because we're trying to get rid of all the trans people. I'm going, oh, maybe I am. I didn't get it on Putin's list, you know, banned list, because I'm on all the TERF lists, every single one of them.
All right.
Oh, yeah. I do have a question, something for our viewers. I've been trying to get in touch with Posy Parker, aka Keely J, because she's got a little, one of her little things that she's doing is called TERF Talk. And that's also the name of this program. And I'd like to talk to her about how to make sure that this little channel that we have, that, you know, not talking ourselves up, but we play an important role in, you know, being gender critical voices in Australia, because there are none. We don't want to be erased because, you know, Keely J uses the term TERF talk and people automatically think of her. So I want to talk to her about ways we could possibly work together to make sure that, you know, our profile isn't erased because she starts calling her little, you know, project TERF talk. So if anyone's in touch with Keely J, can you get her in touch with us so we can have a little bit of a chat about it?
And shout out to Anna, to anyone around the Brisbane area and surroundings. Anna McCormack, who runs IWD Brisbane Meanjin. She's organised another rally that's coming up Saturday, June 25th, 10 a.m.
They have a speaker's corner too, so people will be speaking and you can come along and have a listen if you're a bit curious about things. Very friendly group of people.
In the Brisbane CBD. Really encourage you to get in touch. The gist of it is say no to self-ID. So, and Anna also has a raffle going at the moment. She's raising money for the cause. She does a lot of really good work. I'll put a couple of links in the description. And I think that's all. We've got time for.
Oh, look, there's so much going on, yeah, but we're out of time. We don't want to bore you all. Yeah, there's a lot going on. You know, this case of Sall's is huge. It's absolutely huge. And what is happening in the Greens is absolutely huge.
Yep. All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Please.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Please like and share and,
yes, and subscribe.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.